You know what time it is? It's mime time. Oh, baby good gravy. Do you know what time it is? It is not just mime time, it's Christmas time, aka Christmas season. And I wanted to put out a cheeky Christmas episode. And some people might be thinking, what do you mean, mime? It's not December 25th. It's not Jesus' birthday yet. Well, for one, Jesus wasn't born on the 25th. And two, I figured it would be nice to actually have an like a holiday special or episode about a holiday a little bit in advance so people can appreciate it a bit more because maybe on the actual holiday you don't have time to listen to this podcast. I mean, as hard as that might be to believe, people might actually be spending time with their family and friends on, say, Chuseok or any of the other Korean holidays or American holidays that I talk about on the show. By the way, you are in fact listening to Mime Time, a show where we talk about the Asian diaspora experience, overcoming our identity struggles to become the best version of ourselves. And I just want to talk about what my experiences were growing up in America as a Korean American. I grew up in a Korean family. And when we were kids, we had Christmas trees in the home and set up lights around the house, like back when we lived in North Carolina. Like I was in elementary school. So that stuff was cool looking back at it. But to make a long story short, I think looking back, that holidays in America, especially something like Thanksgiving or Christmas, brought a lot of resentment in my heart. If I want to just cut to the chase of the matter, I can pontificate all day long about this and that. But yeah, I think because I hated my Korean parents and I hated being Korean because I felt so out of place. You go to school 7 hours a day, you try to fit into society. Everyone's just trying to like maybe fit in and like make sense of the world when we're little kids growing up. And I'm the only Asian kid on the block. So I have this kind of, I don't know if bipolar is the right word, but this weird childhood psychological trauma, you might call it, this resentment towards my family for not being American enough. So I resented maybe my parents or my family or my Korean background because it made me feel out of place. So I'd go to school and like everyone else is not Asian or maybe there's a couple of other Asians, but like I'm the only Korean kid. And so I feel out of place and other kids bully me, blah, 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 blah. I go home and my parents, they don't understand the struggles that I'm going through because they're just trying to put bread on the table or rice, I should say, because we are Korean and we eat the rice because we are the Asian people. Even if we go to other country, we eat the rice and the kimchi, and it's delicious. And now I'm proud of my Korean heritage. Like the TLDR, the long story short of this is like I hated Christmas and I hated my Korean identity and I hated America too, because the society didn't, accept me for who I was at the time. That's what I believed. So I hated Korea, having never lived there, and Korean stuff, Korean identity, my Korean family. And I hated America because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere I went. And now I love America. Now I love Korea. I love both parts of this identity, even though maybe arguably I'm not 100% either. I love Korea and America and all the traditions and holidays and the peoples, and I love myself. So yeah, that's the TLDR of this episode. And that's the TLDR of this podcast essentially. So I just want to say that I was like a Grinch. I was just like, "Oh, everyone's enjoying Christmas." There are people like that, right? There are negative people out in the world who like when they think about the holidays, they think about everyone else having fun and genuine connection and love and warmth of the fireplace and I don't know, like Christmas gifts and decorations and all this bullshit. It's not bullshit, but like all that stuff, sense of community and family and friendship and all that stuff. Like I felt like I didn't have that. And I want to look back at all my past grievances and resentments, or all the things that I seem to have lacked, whether that was a sense of belonging or a sense of like real identity and love from either my family or for the neighborhood or the school, classmates, community at large. I don't want to spend the rest of my life just being bitter and resentful and angry. That's just such a huge fucking waste of time, and you only have one life. So I don't know, by the grace of Allah or Buddha or King Sejong the Great, I was able to grow up out of my self resentment, my self hatred, and my resentment for the world. Like you, when you're just a kid and you're just really angry, you just want to see the world burn. I've had that. I've had moments like that. Like when I think of school shooters or when I think of people who do really, really awful, terrible things, I think, man, if I was like in a worse state of mind, if I think someone had just pushed me really close to the edge or life circumstances really pushed me to the edge, like I could have made some terrible decisions, right? Like, not that, I mean, deep down in my heart, I like to think that like I'm a really good person who genuinely loves humanity and everybody that I meet. I do love people and I'm very grateful for life, to be alive and this amazing world that we live in. But there's also the dark moments in me when I felt like life is so unfair. I want other people to feel my pain. So when I meet people who are, you might say they're crazy psychotic or they're toxic or they're bitter, like they're like, or they maybe they just all complain and maybe there's truth to their complaints. Oh, the world is so fucked up. The economy's bad, this and that. Society is really fucked up. The culture's really fucked up. There's a bunch of whatever, like racial injustice or, marginalization of people. There's like oppression, of individuals and certain classes and this and that. So I can see that in these groups, there are people, from all political spectrums or cultural backgrounds. They're just really, really miserable. Like no one, like maybe they felt like no one had the time to listen to them. No one cared enough. No one gave a shit about them. So then they, of course, they harbor these resentments. And for me, in my own personal situation, being the only Korean American kid, the only Asian kid on the block, and not knowing where I fit in, not having many good friends or role models to kind of like encourage me and lift me up and to see the best in my life, to tell me that I had a future, to tell me that I could do great things, to tell me that I could be, beautiful, strong, handsome, confident, and capable, and that I can be a shining motherfucking gift to the universe, to the world, to all humanity, and to everyone I meet. That I can be like a shining blessing to the nations. No one told me that I could be, or that I could, or that I should do these things. But if someone had, I don't know, maybe my ego would have been blown up. Maybe I had to go through all that shit to humble me. Yeah, that's how I want to look at it. I had to be humbled, perhaps. Maybe in a previous lifetime, I was an egotistical asshole. I don't know. And in this lifetime, maybe the goal is to be less of an egotistical asshole. But I think I had to go through all those things and have all those resentments towards cultural elements and ideas like Christmas so that I could appreciate them as an adult, and that's how I look at everything in my life. The whole narrative that I put in my life, that I look through in my life, is that, well, when I was a kid, I hated everything and I wanted to see the world burn. And I was like, bah humbug, fuck Christmas. Everyone else is having fun. Everyone else has genuine sense of connection, but my family is all dysfunctional and fucked up. My parents can't even speak English and I don't even speak Korean. Maybe like, I don't know if like me explaining this to you, like if it makes sense to you, especially if you're a new time listener. But for me, it was really hard. Hard. Like I wanted to be just a normal kid. I wanted to have like, like I wanted like all those stories of like kids, oh, like I wake up on Christmas. I'm so excited on Christmas Eve, December 24th. And when I was 9, like my father dressed up as Santa Claus and blah, 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 blah. And I'll give my parents some credit. They did do some Christmas stuff. And so I'm lucky and grateful that they even did that. But when I think about like, I don't know, like my white friends or my other American friends, they have all these special, precious memories. I'm just like, while it seems like that their family lives are perfect, of course, no family life is perfect. And, everyone struggles in their own way. But like when I compared my life And my stories in my childhood to other American kids, I felt like out of place. I felt like I couldn't relate. I felt like and that just reinforced like, oh, I don't belong. Like I'm not from here. I'm an outsider. I'm an outcast. And maybe I don't deserve these good things like the other kids do. Like subconsciously, you believe all this stupid bullshit. And so I I love Christmas now, and because I feel in some ways more of a kid than I was when I was a kid. I feel like, or I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like as an adult, like, having more responsibilities, the pressures it can weigh on you. But I want to stay a kid. I want to have that childlike joy and curiosity and love for the world. And I like to think that I have more freedoms now than I do as a kid, which is true. I definitely have more, financial freedom. Like I can make money, I can organize my time the way that I want. And now I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want to be. Obviously I still got to make money and spend time to work and pay the bills. Sure. Don't we all? But now I know that my life is in my hands and I'm the master of my fate and the captain of my soul and all that shit. And that's how I want to live my life. So instead of being bitter and resentment of like what I lacked when I was a kid, what do I do as an adult, as a free man, as a free person? I choose to make the most of my time and I choose to celebrate all the good things about life and the cultures and traditions that I come from, and I can choose to cultivate those traditions and make new memories. Maybe I have a family and all the stuff that I didn't have when I was a kid. Maybe if I have kids, then like I'll do that. I'll dress up as Santa Claus, which I've done several times before. That's another story. But maybe I dress up as Santa Claus, or I ask like my brother or friend to dress up as Santa Claus and surprise my kids on Christmas Day with Christmas gifts. And like I can make my own memories that I resented other kids for having, other people for having. So all the stuff that I felt like, oh, I wasn't American enough, or like I wasn't like the other kids who were lucky to like have their families and their traditions and their Christmas and their eggnog and mistletoe and all that stuff. When I was a kid, I hated that stuff because it just reminded me of all the things that I lacked. But Christmas itself is a great gift upon Western civilization, and I would say at all mankind because thanks to America and the West, Christmas has been exported to all over Asia. And like all the Christmas stuff is like made in China, anyways. Ironically, you can look up articles of that, like how like 99% of shit, that like Christmas decorations or whatever. Of course, it's all made in China. It's a funny world that we live in with globalization and all that, but really Christmas is a beautiful thing, and like if you're individualistic, you might be like, well, I don't want to be just a slave and just a product of my environment. So like I'm gonna back away from the traditions because like I didn't choose them. I'm like, fair enough, fair enough, right? Like I understand that mentality as well. But I want to invite anyone listening to this to consider, if you haven't already, to just enjoy the positive effects or the ideas of Christmas itself, that like if you could give it a charitable interpretation. I mean, Christmas itself actually deserves its own podcast when you think about it. And on this in this episode, I could just talk for like, for minutes, if not hours, about Christmas and like what does it mean as a Korean American and what does Christmas mean to Korean people? Because I think it's fascinating. I've living here for the past 9 years here in Korea. It's just like I always like to ask people around Christmas time, like, what did you do for Christmas when you were a kid? Like, isn't it weird? Like Santa Claus is this white person, like maybe Scandinavian, and like Santa Haraboji, which is Grandpa Santa is what we call him here in Korea. Santa Haraboji, right? It's like, I mean, what if you grew up in like France or Germany or Canada or America, and like there's a holiday that comes from China, and every year in the winter you celebrate, some black bearded ajashi, some black bearded grandpa who supposedly visits children's homes in the middle of the night to give them presents. Like, wouldn't isn't that weird? I mean, the whole idea of Santa Claus coming to your home, the chimney, and all that stuff is kind of weird. And Christmas itself has a fucking fascinating history, right? Because it's like a Christianized pagan winter solstice holiday, right? I mean, you can study that. And what else I could get into for this episode is to explore the idea of like from a Christian perspective, like should Christians even celebrate Christmas, right? I mean, if you're like this is just me being playing what is it the devil's advocate, but like Christmas isn't really Christian. No, it's like in origin, it's like a pagan holiday. It's like there are actually some hardcore like fringe cult uh Christians out there who will argue that no, Christmas is like satanic and demonic. And maybe at some point I actually believed that years ago when I was like a hardcore like conservative Christian. Maybe like a part of me, I was like, there's nothing in the Bible about Christmas. There's like, where's Santa Claus in the Bible? Where's the materialistic gift giving and commercialization of Christmas and all this shit in the Bible? It's not in the Bible. It's unbiblical. It's unholy. And you can give a big cultural critique of Christmas and or like how it's commercialized and whatever. But at the end of the day, this is how I want to live my life. Like I want to bring all the richness and the joy and perhaps the spiritual or philosophical implications of what Christmas is into our day-to-day lives. And on this seasonal basis, this Christmas season. I want to think about it as the idea of like if you want to interpret it from the Christian way of like it's supposed to celebrate Christ's manifestation, right? The birth of Jesus Christ and like the birth of the savior of mankind. If you want to look at that in a metaphysical or philosophical spiritual way, then it's like, oh, it's just like hope was given to mankind. God came down in human flesh and born of the Virgin Mary in a manger and all that shit, which is like, you can look your own critiques of whether or not any of this really happened and whatever. And of course, the idea of Jesus and the historicity of Jesus and Christianity itself, of course, like that all deserves its own podcast. So, I mean, you can look at it that way, but I mean, I like to think of it as like this is a symbol of hope for mankind. In the darkest, coldest of winter, you have the birth of the savior of mankind. And even if you're not Christian and you're not, a follower of Jesus and all that, you could maybe looking at it as like, the historical metaphysical meets the real world, the real material world. You're like God is manifesting himself into reality and into our world. And you can interpret God however you wish. Hope for mankind. Is that the real meaning of Christmas? It could be, like, yeah, hope and salvation for mankind in the form of little baby Jesus, who is destined to die on a cross, which is pretty fucked up when you think about it. And like, why would God have to send his son to die on the cross? Oh, it's because God is like a perfect, righteous father, and he's a perfect judge, and he cannot tolerate sin because he's just a motherfucking god, mate. Because he's all holy and stuff, and that's why he needs to incarnate himself in the form of Jesus, God the Son, and then to die across for sin because of double imputation, man. See, when Jesus died for our sins, he took on the sins of all mankind so that whoever believes in him and repents, shall have everlasting life and have a direct relationship with See, I know my shit here, people. And maybe some Christians are like, what? I don't know what he's talking about. Sorry, I go on these tangents sometimes because sometimes the stuff that I say now, I know that like, I don't know, 11, 12 years ago, I would have like come up with all these Christian apologist, reactionary responses to all this stuff. Like, the stuff that I believe right now is quite heretical, quite unorthodox. And so like coming from at the time what I thought as being in orthodoxy, like wanting to adhere to doctrine and scripture and all this stuff, like I'm kind of sick and tired of it. But like I don't want to spend time resenting like I'm looking back, I'm grateful for my Christian upbringing and my Christian background. And anyways, maybe I'm just talking too much, but it is mime time. I mean, this is what you came for, right? What did you come for? You came for mime time. You came here to listen to my sweet, sweet memes. Oh, yeah. So I'm giving it to you hard. But yeah, you know what? I enjoy Christmas for the past several years, leading up to COVID at least. I had the best Christmas parties. It's always fun to have Christmas parties as an adult, like, get the boozy eggnog out and like go out and party with friends and whatever. And so like I have way more fun with Christmas now than when I did as a kid, that's for sure. And some people are like, "Oh man, I don't say Merry Christmas because I just say Happy Holidays, and whatever." And like, look, there's the whole thing, the whole like, is it politically correct to say Merry Christmas? Like, I personally don't give a fuck, because it doesn't matter to me. I mean, if someone says Happy Holidays to me, I'm like, "Oh, thank you," right? And if I say Merry Christmas, I'm not trying to offend anyone. So, but someone will get offended, no matter what you do. Someone will get offended. Maybe it's for a legitimate reason. Maybe it isn't. And of course, not everyone celebrates Christmas because of their religion or whatever, or their culture. Like, if you're Vietnamese, why would you be celebrating Christmas? Like, that's not native to your culture and all that. But I'm sure there are awesome Christmas parties in Vietnam. So actually, I think spending a Christmas in Vietnam would be awesome. Spending Christmas anywhere in Asia is pretty cool, I think, because you can meet up with the other expats in the crowd. And again, like Christmas has been exported to the entire world, or if it hasn't, then it's in the process of being so. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's like contributing to Western hegemony or anything like that. Like, I think Christmas is the shit now. I love Christmas. And that's just me on my lifelong pendulum swing of hating everything to now loving everything. What's the meaning of Christmas? I mean, depending who you are, where you're from, the answer could be different. For me, Christmas is another opportunity to look at my past, to revisit my childhood, and confront all my demons, confront all the demons of the past, and then I don't know, hit them up for a drink and say Merry Christmas to them. For me, Christmas is another cultural element, another societal cultural element for me to readdress as an adult who's trying to become the best version of himself, and take it for what it is and then reinterpret it in a positive way. Whereas in the past, I looked at it in a very bitter, resentful, negative way. And now I want to spread that Christmas cheer and joy in the spirit of Christmas. I don't know. That sounds kind of cheesy, I guess. But like, yeah, I fucking love Christmas. And I'm very grateful and proud to have grown up in America, and that, I was able to experience in some degree Christmas growing up in America, and spending time around the season with friends and like saying to Merry Christmas to people, you know, receiving some gifts here and maybe giving some gifts here and there. If I have time and money, it's great to give people Christmas gifts. I think that's cool, and it's like anything. I think Christmas is just a bonus. If someone gives me any gift, like it's not something I deserve. It's not something that I earned necessarily. And if I give to other people, then like it's from the heart, and it's not to give something back. I mean, gift giving, that deserves its own podcast. Christmas is about giving as well. So I want to give to the world. I want to give to those around me, whether in time, and if I have, money and resources, gifts too. So I think giving to the community is important. I mean, I say that, but how do I do that? I guess it's with this podcast, to be frank. Maybe like, oh yeah, that's how I give to the world. It's through my podcast where I just talk. As I've said in a couple other episodes, like whether it's a Korean holiday like Chuseok here in Korea, it's if like which is like the Korean Thanksgiving, or if whether it's Thanksgiving in America or Christmas, there are a lot of people suffering out there. There are a lot of lonely people who have like, fucked up upbringings, coming from dysfunctional families, and maybe they're lonely and like their lives are miserable, and they don't have any friends or family. I mean, think about the countless situations out there. Countless people are right there out there going through tough times, and maybe like they have to work the Christmas shift, and they can't be home for Christmas or something like that, and they've been away for months or or a year or two in another country because of COVID and because of work. Like people in all kinds of fucked up situations. So I think if you know someone going through a hard time, then like what would be really, really awesome is to reach out to that person and ask them, if you want to get a meal with them, if they want to get a meal with you, buy them a cup of coffee, just help people out, people, because there are a lot of people, and I'll say it again, there are a lot of people suffering out there, a lot of people who are lonely, a lot of people who feel like no one gives a fuck about them. And I love giving gifts to people, and especially people who need it, or people who, are going through a hard time, to help those people out. Then, what would Jesus do? right? That's one way to look at it. But like, what do I want to do? What kind of person that I want to be? Like, aside from Jesus and religion and the idea of God rewarding me, what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of gift do I want to be to the world? It's like I want to be a person who wants to give and help out their fellow man or woman without like the idea, even without the need for a religion to do it. It's just because this is my own, I don't know what the word is, humanist. Yeah, humanist. Like what I want to do. This is who I want to be deep down inside. Not because I expect some heavenly reward, even. I mean, I do think that, of course, like the gods, the spirits of the ancestors, I do want to make them proud, and I do want to bring honor to them by helping other people out for sure. But also, just that's not just because of like like my to bring great honor to my family. Not just to do that. Of course, I definitely do want that. But at the end, it's just for me. So when I give a gift to anyone at all, I want whether it's a Christmas gift or any other time of the year, a birthday gift. It's for that person, of course, but it's also very selfishly for me. Like I want to give to make someone happy, and seeing other people happy or getting a need or want or desire fulfilled, and that makes me happy because making other people makes me happy. Making you happy would make me happy. So I don't know. I feel like I could talk forever, but I just want to keep it short for this time. I just want to say I hope you guys are all having a fucking merry Christmas season. If and like maybe you don't care about Christmas because you just don't care, but and you don't have any negative baggage to it. That's important, right? And then whatever, man, just live your my man or woman, just live your life, right? But if you're having like when you think about Christmas or people say, Merry Christmas and it bothers you and like it brings up all this negative emotion from your past, I don't care if you're Asian or not listening to this, like you're an Asian growing up in the West and other kids celebrating Christmas, but you didn't have that, so you feel left out. You don't necessarily have to be like that, but maybe you were a white kid growing up in America and you felt like you have some trauma because like, even you didn't have, like whatever, you didn't come from money or you didn't have resources. And like around Christmas time, you have some traumatic memory or whatever. Whether whoever you are, if you have some kind of negative baggage associated with Christmas, then please reach out to me. Let's just talk it out. I'm no fucking Dr. Phil. I'm no expert, but like just talk it out. Like I want to hear your story. I want to hear your story because I know what it feels like to feel left out, and I know what it feels like to feel alone and that no one gives a shit. And that whenever people say something positive or, bring up something like cool, and like that's was supposed to make people feel good about themselves and whatever, Merry Christmas. If that bothers you, then just reach out to me and let's like, why does that bother you? Let's talk it out. You know, I think I can relate. I think. And I'm not saying like you should celebrate Christmas because that's what everyone does. I mean, fuck that, right? But it's your life. You should choose the things that you want to because you want to, because it has meaning to you. And if it can somehow positively impact and benefit your life and help you connect with other people, then you can interpret it that way. And then that way that gives back agency to you choosing to celebrate or engage with a certain cultural tradition or societal elements. And I don't know. There are so many things I feel like I could talk about, about Christmas and relation to the podcast and Asian American identity. I think this covers some stuff. If you have any other ideas or like experiences or interesting cultural implications of being a minority diaspora celebrating Christmas, and I don't know how you celebrate your Christmas, please shoot me an email or please message me if you have my contact and just hit me up and be like, yeah, when I was a kid, I celebrated Christmas like this. What was your Christmas tradition growing up? And what do you do for Christmas now? And what do you want it for your future family? What does Christmas mean to you, especially if you're Asian diaspora like me? I love Christmas, and I especially love being here in Korea, in Asia, celebrating Christmas every year. And I'm grateful for every fucking day of my life. And I can't say it enough. I love Christmas because I hated it when I was a kid. That makes me love it even more. I love my family. I love America. I love Korea. I love all the nations. Joy and peace to the world, and joy and peace to you, my dear listener. I love you. Christmas is just another window of opportunity, a seasonal opportunity to love the world, to love myself, and to love you. In the end, I think it goes back to peace, joy, and love for all mankind. And that means you, man or woman or other kind. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And if you think someone needs to hear it, then please share it with them. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you all. And talk to you next time. Mime time.